Previously on Lucky Crit.
Heroes, I've been kind of disappointed because even though we finally are getting into sort of some actual plot twists and some stuff happening within the story, are there waifus?
It's the waifus.
As I've been kind of expanding my horizons a little bit. This is not a game that you can just go onto the Google Play or iOS app stores and download. They're kind of similar, baby-like creatures jumping around. That's not typical, so that's not the reason why I like this game. Like I said, you can definitely play it F2P, save up your stuff, get the exact character that you want, so I think that that's pretty great, honestly. So now we're going to get into a battle here. I actually do have a side quest story in progress. This one is actually going to be a boss from the Tales series side quest that I've been playing recently, which I thought was pretty interesting. So it's not a very difficult boss, but I figured it'd be a cool one to show you. This is my fire team. You'll notice that everybody has their own individual element above their head, which I appreciate. So you kind of have your teams based upon elements because that's sort of the easiest way to buff everybody. And something that I'll get into a little bit later is actually sort of the weapon grids. And that's sort of the main meat of this game as far as with, a lot of the grind and that sort of stuff, because you're going to be building up that weapon grid to kind of complement your characters within the game. Most characters are pretty solid. They come with their own skills, obviously, so some people have better skills than others or better stats, but in reality, it's not quite such a, as far as between the SSRs, there's not such a huge divide. Most characters are, between the 8 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 mark, I'd say. So that's pretty cool. It's mostly about what grid you want to work with and sort of what team you place them on to really get the best out of that character. So bottom right here, I've got my summons. The cool thing about this game, too, and what reminds me of Bravely Default, is you can actually pick a friend summon or a random person summon before you enter sort of a story mission or a raid boss or anything like that. So that kind of reminds me of Bravely Default quite a bit. Here's Shiva. You'll notice I do have the animations on pretty fast, so sometimes some of these summon animations can look like they're on crack or something. In this case, this one's going to be really fast. I hope you're ready for this. Ready? Boop. You don't even get to see Shiva in that case. But you can actually slow it down, and there are actually full animations. You can choose to skip them or whatnot, which I think is really cool. Quick side note here. Just wanted to point out those gratuitous camera angles. I find those to be pretty hilarious too. Another thing too to point out that I really like is when it comes to these character sprites, as you upgrade the characters, which I'll show you in a little bit as well, sometimes they might have either just slight differences with their sprites or completely different sprites in general. So you'll see I have a Beatrix here who I just tapped, turned her charge animation on and off, but she looks normal right now. But when I click this attack button, you'll notice now she looks like she's freezing. That's actually a custom sprite because of her little sort of recruit mission, and it's just a nice little touch, and I kind of like that about some of these sprites as well. So I'm going to click on the characters here and go through some of their skills. Right now, the main character, you can change your class and become pretty much anything that you would want to be, which I think is really cool. Obviously, some of the jobs are better than others. In this case, Dark Fencer is definitely one of the best ones in the very beginning. It's a tier 3 class, and it just has some pretty solid skills. Like, for example, here's Stall. So we can delay the enemy a little bit, and also Miserable Mist to take a hit to their attack and defense, which is great. And then a little bit of Gravity Wave here, which increases their max charge diamonds. You'll see above the enemy in the top left here, there's actually 2 little diamonds. When that fills up, basically their special is going to happen. And they also have a mode bar up here too. And when that fills up, they actually go into overdrive, which is where you see a lot of the sort of crazy boss stuff happen. Usually that's a pretty bad place to be. And when you enter overdrive, every attack, every skill, every summon that you do towards an enemy will decrease that bar. And basically you want to get out of overdrive as fast as you can and get them into break mode, which is what comes after that, which is sort of where the enemy is typically a bit weaker. That adds an extra layer of depth and strategy that I really appreciate in this game. I think it's pretty cool. So you can either, spam all your skills right at turn 1, or if you have sort of a long-term plan, you can kind of wait wait till they're in overdrive, do your worst, and kind of sort of try to kick them back out of overdrive as fast as possible and finish them off. So I'm going to do that. Then I've got this nice little skill. This is a bounty skill. Just going to increase the odds of getting some good loot. This is Summer Ilsa, actually. She has some pretty amazing skills. Pretty interesting, too. So this one's going to do some pretty nice damage to the boss. And then this is actually basically some nice little napalm hits, an HVAP round at the end of each turn for 3 turns, which actually does some pretty significant damage, as you can see. And then there's also this nice little mine that I can throw at the boss. So if they decide to use their special, they're going to get a nice explosion right in their face, which is pretty cool. Beatrix here is all about clocks and timing. And so with this skill, you'll see it's a big boost to her multi-attack rate. Boop. And then she's also got some other cool stuff. She's kind of a glass cannon. This skill over here will actually decrease her health, which is going to allow her to have higher attack, which is nice. And then when the boss is in overdrive, she's got this middle skill here for another sharp boost to attack, which is pretty cool. So as long as I can try to keep her alive, she's going to be dealing some nice damage. I've got Yule here. She's got 2 fire damage attacks here, and a nice heal for later. Not going to need it, because this boss is not that challenging, but just pretty cool, and I just wanted to go through the skills with you guys. So multi-attacking is definitely a big thing, and it's something that a lot of people incorporate into their builds. As you saw, a lot of my guys just attacked 2 or 3 times because of the skills. There's that aerial mine that just went off on him, destroyed him. So yeah, when it comes to building your actual weapon grids, there's usually something that you're focusing on, whether it's some glass cannon characters in your team that you really want to give multi-attack to so they can get those 3 attacks out of them, or, you know, perhaps just straight up boosting your offense or defense or health or anything like that. So here's sort of our loot screen here. We can see the purple bar underneath the character's experience bar is actually for EMP, which is extended mastery perks. And that is basically for unlocking extra little percentage boosts to the character and sort of enhancing them and making them better beyond just their level. So that's pretty cool too. And that's something that you can kind of build up as time goes on. I've also got a rank. I'm rank 60. It's kind of like your overall level, I guess you can say, if you want to compare it to other games. But I think it goes well beyond 100, maybe even 130, something like that. I'm only rank 60. I have not, definitely have quite a ways to go. And my team is not that great or anything. But let's take a look at my party here for a second. And I'll kind of sort of go through things. You have your 3 main members, aside from your main character. And also 2 backup members in case some of your members go down. We can see up here all of the boosts based upon our weapon grid that are acting upon our characters. So this is just pretty cool to see, and you get to see what's affecting who, especially down here with, boosts. Here's 3 boosts that are affecting, Summer Ilsa here. Let's talk about weapon grids, though, because that's something that I've been mentioning but haven't really gotten into, and that's a big part about this game. So in this game, one of the most interesting things, I think, is when you actually summon for characters, what you're getting is weapons. And there are certain weapons that are sort of attached to certain characters. So for example, this axe here is actually what you get when you recruit Yule. But this is the axe that you just get initially. That's what you're pulling for in those draw screens, which I find to be unusual, but kind of cool. And all of these SSR weapons are going to have some cool skills that'll end up helping and working towards your grid. And you can enhance those as well. But that's just something that I found interesting. So this game is definitely more about the weapons and building up the weapon grid than the characters themselves. But of course, obviously you need the characters on your team to use. What I do like about that, though, is it's because there's not that much of a disparity in that tier system. You can kind of play with who you want and really just enjoy just about anybody, which I do like. Obviously, characters have different roles based upon their builds and stuff, so of course there's still min-maxing involved, but it's not so much as involved as I'd say, the characters and heroes. That is your team. That affects your entire team. In this, it's more about the weapons here. So you'll see I do have a main hand weapon here. This does give its effect as sort of a passive to your team. And the other weapons here also do the same. They also give you sort of damage buffs and stuff like that. And whatever skills they have associated with them are also associated with your team. You can see, like I showed you before, this boost thing up here is sort of showing you a nice rundown of everything that you have happening because of that weapon grid. You'll also notice that each character and each weapon do have stars associated with them. And that does not actually have to do with how rare that character is. It has nothing to do with things like Fire Emblem Heroes or anything like that. It's actually how far uncapped that character is. And what that actually means is when you get each character, as an SSR, they actually cap at level 40, similar to Fire Emblem Heroes. Unlike Fire Emblem Heroes, you can actually extend that cap and go well beyond that to even level 100, and in some cases level 120 for these characters. So that's pretty cool. And what you need to do that is actually, let me show you guys. If I go back to home and go into upgrade, we can upgrade both weapons, summons, and characters. So you see right here I have weapons. If we go into characters though, you don't need multiple copies of characters to upgrade them, which is quite a relief. Happy about that. You can only get each character once, so that's cool. Any other dupes that you'd get of their item, you will get their weapon again, and also a moon, which can be used in the shop to buy other stuff. And the actual weapon itself, those can be merged together to get another star, but thankfully the characters don't work that way, so I'm happy about that. But you'll see here, if I go into the uncapped menu and click on a character, let's say, I'll do Gandagoza here. You'll see it costs a variety of items and stuff that you can get just by playing the game content, weekly missions and stuff like that, and you can actually upgrade them. And then at a certain level, like I was mentioning earlier, you'll actually get a little bit of an artwork change and potentially a sprite change for some of the characters too, which I think is really, really cool. So let me look at... I think Summer Beatrix is a good example of that, but there she is. You can actually go down and click on Outfit and Pose Settings and choose between the two different artworks in here. You'll also see, this is a dark version of Beatrix up here, this art. I currently have two Beatrixes. One of them is the normal version, one is the summer version. And the very cool thing here is I can actually interchangeably pick which element I want them to be, basically. So if I want the fire one to look like the normal one, or the normal one to look like the fire one, basically wearing the sort of bathing suit outfit, I can do that. And I think that that's really, really cool. But for right now, here's the summer Beatrix. Because of the story, she actually gets freezing at one point, so this second artwork is kind of sad. And if we keep scrolling down here, there's a whole bunch of different options for different battle poses and stuff, as far as the artwork goes and how it's displayed. And then you can choose between the different sprites. And they're not all as intense as this one. Unfortunately, this is just happens to be a really cool one. I do think that that's really cool because you can kind of customize your stuff a little bit further. Sometimes it's like a character without a helmet. Sometimes it's just simply like a sword upgrade on the sprite or something like that. But I just think that's really cool. So next off, let's join a raid and show you guys how that kind of works. And the cool thing about that is that you can actually join and play raids, even if you really can't do very much to the boss in terms of damage, if you're not a high enough level, if you're not properly equipped. It's all pretty much fine, and they'll let you do it. So let's see here. If we go into the current event and actually go into the raid tab, which is also in this sort of raids and event things. There's none of those right now. So here's some normal raids that are going on with some of the bosses. Let's just, for example, click, let's do Luminaria Omega. So now we get to choose our summon for this battle. You can either go with sort of, let's go Misk maybe and do experience, or you can actually pick another friend summon that might help you. As you can see, the boss's HP is actually kind of low up there, so I'm going to sort of hurry into here. I did recommend dark characters, and I brought fire, which isn't good. I should have brought dark, but it's sort of dying, and I just wanted to get in here before it's too late. You'll see people are actually fighting it. Here's the different players down here. You can see along the bottom. You want to make sure you at least do an attack once, because otherwise you will not get credit for the battle. And actually, the interesting thing is you can just straight up back out of this battle, go back to the menu, and join another raid. And you could do this to up to, I believe, either 3 at a time or up to potentially 5, depending on which ones are ending and which ones are still ongoing. So let's join another one here, and I'll show you a little bit better. This twin element still has a lot of health, so I have more time to pick out my summons and stuff. Sometimes you definitely do feel that pressure to get into the raid as soon as possible if you see that the boss is dying, especially if you're trying to get sort of event items and build up stuff. I'm going to go with this Europa here because this has a nice 140 boost to water attack. It has a plus 99 on it, which means that they've pretty much upgraded this thing to as high as it can go. And it's suggesting water characters for us, so I'm going to go over to my water team here and join this. Along the bottom here, something that I didn't point out either is I've actually got some items here that you can just place just to see how many you have if you're kind of hunting or grinding for certain collectible items or anything like that, either for upgrades and stuff. Right now is actually strike time, so you'll see I entered the battle with all of my character's specials ready. So let's do that. Let's take a look at how that looks. This main character here in this team has the warrior class, I believe. I do have it to kind of truncate their animations as well, but there's kind of a quick version right there. One of the things aesthetically that I just really love about this game too is the animation of the bosses. I just think is so cool. I'm so tired of like some Final Fantasy games and old school games where just sort of that classic style where the boss is just kind of sitting there and it doesn't move. And is usually pretty out of scale with the characters. And I'm not saying that this game is perfect in that regard either, but I just really love the animation here. It's just so high quality, very nice to look at. The actual summon animations are great, which I should actually turn back on to the normal speed and everything and show you guys. But for the time being, I'm just going to go through here and do some of these skills that I have. So, Izmir here is pretty interesting. She actually gets a little icicle thing floating around here, and that kind of boosts her attack. And then she can kind of unleash it and get rid of it to make her attacks better. And do sort of a higher damage attack, which I think is pretty cool. Just like that. We've got, what's his name? Altair here, who does sort of a lot of team buffs. Is a very solid character. And this is a new character I got right here. Her name is Silva. I'm not too familiar with her just yet, but she also doesn't have all of her skills. You'll notice that each character has anywhere between 2 to 4 skills, potentially even some other passives and stuff happening as well. But basically they start with 2. Once you get them to level 45 and do a special side story mission that pops up for them, you'll be able to unlock their 3rd skill. And a 4th skill is dependent upon the character and the circumstances, I think, are different for everybody. Potentially maybe at level 100 or something like that. But typically that's how it works. That little bell sound is other players actually joining the battle. Let's actually look at that. So there's about 9 people in here right now fighting with us. I am going to summon Europa here. You'll see someone else summoned as well. They summoned Shiva. So we're getting a little bit of a dual action summon happening. Honors affect sort of your overall points with the event, and you unlock some stuff based upon that. It also affects how you do in the battle. So you can see someone down here has the gold medal, and silver medal is kind of obscured by the little chat bubble down here at the right. But I obviously don't have that many points because I'm kind of talking too much. And also because there's some high-level people in here doing stuff, and I'm not quite that good yet at this point. This team is not that solid. People aren't maxed out or anything, so that works. Actually, Izmir is dying, and I wasn't even paying attention. But there we go. There's the there's a raid boss down. Actually, we got 4 gold chests from that. That's pretty good. So you'll see you get renown points and stuff like that too, which can also be used in its own separate shop. Got some experience. Here's some loot. Another thing that's cool, here are some angel weapons. Basically, these exist solely to boost the EXP given to other weapons. So you pretty much just, these are fodder. Essentially, that's all they come down to. They're fodder to level up your other weapons that you get. So that's pretty cool. Let me show you quickly, because I forgot to show you guys the actual weapon upgrading. So if I go to upgrade here for the weapons, this is simply going to be feeding these weapons other weapons to level them up. You can see this is a max level. It has the potential of getting 2 more stars, but it needs to be uncapped further to do that. It's maxed out. So right now, all I can see are weapons with a +1 or a +2 on them, which if I absorb, then this weapon is going to become a +1. Basically, it just gives you, I think, extra attack and maybe extra HP to your characters for those extra pluses added to the weapon. If we go to uncap, for weapons, you are going to need another version of that weapon to uncap it. You can see this is one, this is an event bow that I got from something that was going on, a Xeno Clash, that I have actually uncapped a little bit. To uncap it further, I'm going to need a whole bunch more items, though, which you can get by some other methods, but it's pretty expensive usually to get it that way. You probably want to get it the correct way. So, like I said, you can pull dupes of weapons, and you will need that to upgrade them. But when it comes down to it, there's also some items like gold bars or Damascus that can basically act as another dupe of that item to upgrade it, though they seem pretty rare and far between, so I haven't actually done anything with those at this point. Summons work the same way. You've got sort of these little fairy summons here. These are just for the extra EXP boost to level some of your other summons. So if we go to my highest level summons in here, you see if I've got this electric eel that's been uncapped once. This was an event summon. I can use, for summons, the rock basically to upgrade a summon instead of another of the same summon is actually called a Sunlight Stone. Once again, I'm pretty sure they're quite rare, so I'm not going to do that right now, but there are alternatives which I do like. It's not quite like Heroes where you need the exact 5-star copy of someone else to be able to upgrade them, so I think that's pretty cool. Not quite as restrictive. I'm actually going to go and draw for you guys so you can experience how that is. I'm not going to do a 10-part draw because I think I only have 1 ticket for that and probably only enough crystals to do 1 10-part draw, and I'd like to save it. But right now there is actually an event going on for 1 free daily draw, so I'll show you how that works. Let's see. You getting anything good? Blue crystal means that it's just a rare in this case, so nothing good. What you want to see is a rainbow crystal. Yeah, that's just a drawfish summon. Pretty common summon, not great or anything. Maybe I'll do one more. Let's do... no, we're not going to do that. I will use 1 draw ticket and try one more time. Obviously, it's much better to do a 10 pull, but, you know, sometimes you got some single draws around, so let's see what we got. Nothing good from this one. But, you know, it's gotcha. It happens. This is an interesting weapon. It only has a small boost to water's attack, so it's not great, really. Because a lot of even the free stuff that you can get from events and such will have at least a big boost or a medium boost. So that's just, that one's not great. It's good fodder, though, to feed to something else. Especially if it does have skills on it, which can increase the chance of upgrading your skill level on other weapons, which is something that you will need to do. So yeah, I kind of feel like that's a pretty good, pretty quick run through, to be honest with you, but that's a lot of it, honestly. I feel like I've given you kind of a good idea of how the game sort of functions. Events have been pretty interesting. I've liked it a lot. I like a lot of the characters. You know, for those of you waifu collectors out there, there's actually an entire race of characters with horns that are well endowed. That's actually a species in this game, so that's interesting. But yeah, that's just a basic rundown of Granblue Fantasy, why I kind of like it and appreciate it. A couple things that are different about it here and there between it and Heroes. In some cases, it's a little bit more forgiving. In other cases, not quite as much, so there's definitely a give and take for it. But I really have been appreciating the game, and it's become kind of an everyday or every other day game for me over the past while. So I just figured it'd be worthwhile to show it to some of you guys out there. And yeah, so that's going to wrap up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you are interested in checking out the game, be sure to check out the links in the video description below. I'll put some sort of tutorial beginner stuff that I didn't cover in this episode, and also some tutorials as to how to actually download the game and get the game. So be sure to check that out if you are interested. If you like this episode, do me a solid and slash that thumbs up down below. If you haven't yet, be sure to get subscribed to Lucky Crit for more content like this, and also, of course, you know, Fire Emblem stuff as usual. If you want to be extra awesome, you can actually click that notification bell to be notified every single time we put out a video, which unfortunately is a little bit fewer and further in between these days, but, you know, that way you'll know exactly when we upload if you want to check out the latest video as soon as possible. You can also follow us on Twitter for any news and updates that you might be interested in getting, especially related to the Fire Emblem series. And of course, as always, a shout out to all of our amazing patrons who help to support the channel and keep it going. Thank you guys so much. You guys are all so amazing. And with that, I hope to see all of you guys in the next episode.